Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 342 of the Stacey West podcast. I'm your host, Ben, and this week I'm joined by Chris. How you doing, mate? You keeping well?
Oh, very well, Ben. Very well indeed. It's nearly Christmas.
It is. It is. I'm hearing the sound of thousands of people's out of offices going on.
Mine's not till Christmas Eve, actually.
Oh, okay.
I'm working till lunchtime on Christmas Eve. We do half a day on Christmas Eve, but at that point I'm off until the 6th. I've never gone back to work that late ever in my life ever. So I'm really looking forward to having some time off. It's been really busy this week at work, but like Monday and Tuesday will be really quiet, and then it's Christmas. But we did Secret Santa today, and and honestly, I'm not a Scrooge. I'm not against people getting into the Christmas spirit. It just never really hits me. And it hit me today in 200 Degrees coffee shop when we was doing Secret Santa with me and my workmates, and it was lovely. And they bought me, someone says if they know me, the Lincoln City training top from last year. It must be on offer because we only had a 10 quid budget, but it was very nice because I haven't got it. And then I felt all Christmassy. Christmassy for the first time. Yeah, so it's nice. Excellent. How are you?
I'm good. Yeah, my Christmas holiday again starts on Monday. So I've taken 4 days off out of my annual leave, and I have 2 weeks. So that's
not bad going.
Beautiful. Yeah, happy with that one because our office closes sort of between Christmas and New Year. So now I'm very, very happy with that. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. We've got the family coming up, and it's going to be all nice. But yeah, we have discussed off air briefly that this one might we often joke about it. We say when Chris is on the podcast, we never have a short one. But this today genuinely might be a bit of a shorter podcast than normal, quite simply because there's not a great deal of news that's come out of the club this week, and we only really have one game to talk about. So, there was a couple of other topics where I thought, maybe do we start talking about them? But then it's probably water under the bridge, or it's old news by that point. So, what we're going to do instead is we're going to ask Chris about a story that he's told us privately, and I know very scant details about this story, but I'm intrigued to hear it. So come on, Chris, tell us what happened in the week.
Yes. So last week, I think I've been a bit boring. Shock horror. But at the start of the podcast, where we normally do our witty banter at the start or share some funny stories, I hadn't had a lot to share recently. But this Tuesday, I think this is quite funny, to be honest. So firstly, my good lady and I, we had booked tickets to go to the live at Christmas comedy show thing at the Engine Shed, which was really good. We clearly booked tickets weeks and weeks ago. Actually forgot we'd booked tickets. Both of us forgot until I got an email reminder a week or so ago. And it was quite nice. A little reminder. We go, oh, yeah, we're going to that really fun thing. That's nice. So we decided we'll go out for some dinner. Traditional pre-gig meal, Toby Carvery.
Absolutely, especially at the Engine Shed.
Yeah, exactly. It's perfect, isn't it? Yeah. So parked up, went had Toby Carvery. Steph, before we moved in together, she used to live round near Central Bank, and so whenever I used to go and stay at her house in the week, we used to pop to Toby Carvery quite a bit. So it's always quite nostalgic for us to pop in there. We do it like once or twice a year now. So that was nice. Saw the gig. Excellent, really good fun. So that finished about 10:30 or so. Walking back to the car, and the car park was locked shut. Turns out it locks shut at 10 p.m. So my car was locked inside. I see. That's the thing that's happened there. So a long walk to the taxi rank and a taxi home, and then an early morning to be dropped off on the way to work. By Steph, so I can pick my car up and get back to my house to work, ready for 9 o'clock.
That's quite impressive, because when you said like the car park was locked, I'm like, how do you do that? Because the car park at St Mark's is open, isn't it? And then I remembered,
it's the one that has massive gates on it. Yeah, the one with the massive gates on it with a sign on it that says shuts at 10.
Oh dear, Chris. But well, at least you had a good evening with the comedy. I'm gutted I missed that. Actually, it sounded like it was a really good evening.
Yeah, it was good. I have to say, both of us did did see the funny side of the little mistake. I, of course, paid for the taxi, which was honestly half the price that I was expecting. Turns out,
Okay, that's
whenever I
all right.
normally get a taxi home, it's a weekend and after midnight normally,
Yeah.
which turns out is literally double what the normal going rate is on a weekday. So
Yeah,
it wasn't as painful as I thought it might be.
okay. That's not too bad then. Well, I have to throw into the banter section. I have a slightly more positive, amusing story from the weekend. So Rachel and I went down to visit her in-laws last weekend, and we went down to see some of her friends from her hometown. And we went round to her cousin's house, and there was like 5 of us, all just sort of, just saying hello and, having a pre-Christmas drink and having a nice little time. We said, let's get some food in. So we ordered in, and we ordered, naturally, we ordered a Nando's in. So it said, because there was like 5 people's food, it was going to come in 2 deliveries because the guys were on bikes or whatever. And they said, it's probably going to be too much for one guy on a bike. So we're there. First guy arrives, and it says that he got to the door, and basically as he handed the bags over, it said the second guy was at the restaurant or on his way to the restaurant. So okay, cool. There'll probably be some, like, it'll be split in whatever the order is. So fine. Got the food out, divvied it up, and realized that the entire order was in the first 2 bags. So we're like, oh, okay. Must be bringing like sauce or something. I don't know. Anyway, finished all the food. The guy showed up with the second part of the order, and they'd sent the entire order twice.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So then what happened?
So we realized that we would be incredibly fat sods if we did attempt to eat it all again. We kind of, after laughing about it quite a lot, because this was a hefty order, we kind of went, right, genuinely, what do we do? I think we had a piece of garlic bread each from the second order. And then Rachel's cousin lives kind of near the city centre in Gloucester. So she said, well, I'll tell you what, let's just put it all into 5 or 6 different bags. So we split it all up, and we just went walking and gave it to people sleeping rough in Gloucester.
Oh, that's very heartwarming.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
a happy ending to
all
an
involved.
interesting story.
I do feel slightly sorry for the person that was maybe expecting, a nice little, just something nice to eat and Christmas. Someone's come up there, there's some food, and then they've got my hot wrap that is the spicy chicken from Nando's, and not realizing it. But
I'm sure they're not going to be turning it away, mate. That was very good of you to do that, because
No.
you could have just stuck it in the fridge ready for tomorrow and just done it all again the next night.
I've always found whenever you reheat Nando's, it's not quite as nice. It's not quite as good.
I don't think I've never reheated. I've never had a Nando's takeaway. Don't know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, really. But hey.
Neither have I. I definitely haven't had lots of them. And we definitely didn't notice a spike in our spending when Deliveroo started delivering to our old house.
That may be a benefit. We're out the catchment era. We never really do takeaways very often anyway, but that would, of course, that's one reason for it, isn't it? Because we can't. It's
so dangerous. But anyway, look,
shall we talk about some football now?
Yeah, let's talk about some football. I mean, look, we've not. Let's say we only have one game to preview. So what we're going to do is kind of talk around the game, and then hopefully we'll hit the preview in the second half. But I mean, going into it, obviously the weekend's game is, if you're buying tickets as this goes out live or on Friday, you can get kids for £1. So you can take your kids, your kids, your friends' kids, your kids' friends, whatever it is, try and pack the bank. And I believe they've said that the Stacey West is also open to home fans at the weekend. Presumably Reading's allocation hasn't been massive or sold out. So that's all good. It's always good to see, when they do the offers, isn't it? And you get loads of, the youth teams and stuff like that in across Midlands. It's really nice to see.
Yeah, I always really like it. It's always like a slightly higher pitched cheer from the Stacey West stand, isn't it, when that game's going on? But that just reminded me, actually, when you were mentioning this before, there is actually a small thing to add to our little running order here that I've just stumbled across, which is our average attendance this season. I appreciate we've only had 9 home games so far, so there's a long way to go yet. But, when you see often some of these promotions, the skeptic in you maybe sometimes thinks, oh, that must mean they haven't sold many tickets then. But actually, our average attendance so far this season is the highest it's been at any point since we've been back in League One.
Wow, I didn't realise that.
So it's very close to what it was in our first season. That was 8,986. Season after was 0. Then 8,700, 8,400, 8,400 last season. Currently, our average is 9,138. So it's the first time we've had average 9,000 home attendance since League Two. In fact, it's our highest average attendance for since 1960. According to transfer marks, but ultimately that shows that we're about 600 or 700 or so on average ahead of where we were last season. Now, part of that will be to the fact we've probably had more bigger away crowd so far this season than maybe at this time last. But there has been more home fans at games this season compared to last season as well at this point. So that's a really good sign, isn't it? That I thought we kind of bottomed out a little bit and averaged off, but actually it shows that fans are definitely getting behind the team again now. And attendances did really creep up towards the end of last season for obvious reasons. And I thought they were a little bit lower than they had been at the start of the season. So for it to be the highest it's been for a long time, that's a real positive. And of course, extra bums on the seats on Saturday, hopefully because of the kids for a quid, will make it a really good atmosphere, hopefully. Really looking forward to it.
Yeah, definitely. And I always find it interesting to kind of see that almost a bit of a disparity between some of the reactions, when you say, "Oh, I'm not going again," or if the reaction to stuff that's happening on the pitch isn't necessarily the best, and then you have the inverse of that of, well, the facts are saying that people are still going. So it's quite a good one. So
yeah, I think so. I think just quickly on that, I think we're always guilty of that. I think all of us are guilty of it, in that. Because we all have an opinion. Everyone has an opinion on football. And, I suppose we see the same names online a lot of the time. People obviously see our names online a lot of the time. And therefore, you kind of paint this picture of what the fan base thinks of a game or an overall opinion on where the club is at. Whereas actually, there's probably thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of people that go to football, really enjoy it and go home again. And what that shows is that those people that we maybe don't really hear from or don't see online, the actions speak louder than words, don't they? The gates are significantly higher than they were. That's good. So maybe things overall are a little bit more positive than maybe sometimes social media would have you believe.
Oh, are you saying that social media might be a negative skewing environment, Chris?
Ooh, who knows? Maybe.
But the other real bit of proper news out of the club is about the last 16 Virtue Trophy game against Bolton. That is going to be taking place on the 14th of January. So that is Tuesday evening at 7 o'clock.
At home.
I know, it's
finally a home fixture.
I wonder what the attendance will be like for that one. I know it's probably still not a well attended competition. It'll be interesting to see what happens with that one, I think.
Yeah, I'll go to that. I'm going to predict about 3,000 to 3,500, maybe something along those lines.
Just like the old days. So there we go. But that's mostly about the the upcoming games. The only other real thing was that Radio Lincolnshire dropped a tweet today, or an X post, however you want to look at it. And they have said that they have an interview dropping tomorrow with Jez, and he's going to be talking about the Lewis Montsma's contract situation. And they've also put on there, is Joe Taylor a January target, and how many signings are being targeted? So sounds like there's a few direct questions, and I think we'll probably get a mixture of direct and slight politicians' answers, as we usually tend to do when it comes to future interests and things like that. But it'll be good to see if we can get some clarity around Lewis tomorrow, won't it?
Yeah, definitely. I'll just touch on Jez quickly, because I love how open that Jez is. I don't think many director of footballs will go on national or local radio and answer direct questions around the upcoming transfer market. I think he's always incredibly honest, and
I mean, let's be fair as well.
That's a privilege.
I don't think it's just local radio. I mean, even the fact that he comes and speaks to us is ridiculous.
Yeah, we've mentioned that that's a ridiculous privilege for us. So I don't want this to because Jez has been nice to us, so we're going to kind of back him up. I just think it's a real privilege that we even get that insight as a fan base in general, because a lot of it fans are wondering who we're going to get, what's going to go on, and it's just all kind of guesswork, isn't it? And
yeah,
at least we're going to get some idea because we discussed this on Sunday. We might just touch on it now in regards to, well, what do we need? How active are we going to be? Because I can foresee two situations depending on contracts of players that we might want to get some money for now. Is there value on the pitch for 6 months? Can we get them a new deal or are we going to flog them? How many do we want to bring in? Do we need a striker or not? Like there's so many questions. And it sounds like there's going to be a bit of an answer there from Jez. But on Lewis Montsma's situation, I really hope they're not promoting this and then building it up with then
there's nothing.
Bad news. Yeah, with bad news. Because I imagine that would be a respectful message as a post somewhere if Lewis has gone a separate way or whatever. So again, we're saying this genuinely. We don't know, do we? We have no idea at this point of a recording on Thursday evening. But I really, really, really hope it's news that Lewis Montsma has extended his stay at Lincoln City as a minimum until the end of the season. Honestly, gut instinct that we'll probably have him signed up for until next season. Because if he's fit and ready and firing, he's clearly durable. He's clearly able to play. We have got Adam Jackson, Paul O'Connor, and Sean Rowan out of contract in the summer. It'd be nice to have one first team centre back tied down for next season as well. Obviously, got Tom Hamer as well, who's out currently. But I really hope he signs. I really hope it's good news tomorrow. If of course there is any news, but I'd be surprised if there wasn't after it being kind of advertised. I don't think there's a single Lincoln City supporter who wouldn't welcome that news.
Oh, no, absolutely not. I think it's, I think the fact that Lewis is back playing and he just looks every inch of Lewis Montsma that was there before he got injured. And that's usually the biggest worry, isn't it? When you get a player that's coming back from a long-term injury, you go, oh, is he going to be the same player? And I think he's shown that he is so far. Like I still admittedly wince when I see him go in for a challenge, as do by the sounds of about half the stadium. But I'd be delighted. I mean, Adam said in the chat here, a contract till the summer with a 1-year option. I think that would be a really good shout. I would almost not question the timing, but I'd find it a bit strange to drop it like the Friday before Christmas. In terms of news, but I mean, I imagine that the conversation is probably: is there any news on Lewis Montsma? Not yet. We're in discussions. We'll update later on. I think
maybe so.
It may just be we've got some news on this, and it's like, it's nothing.
Yeah, maybe so. But Spidey senses are tingling a little bit here in regards to why would you make it not a song and dance, but why would you even mention it if there's no news? And also, we haven't got long. It expires at the end of the month. So
that's true, actually. I keep thinking it's still the end of January, and it's like, no, it's not. It's still the end of December.
December.
No, that's a very
fingers crossed it's good news, but probably by the time most people listen to this, they know what the answer is. So we're probably there's no point of speculating any further, but we all hope it's good news.
Absolutely. And then obviously the other ones, you and Gaz did mention it on Sunday and said, like, is Joe Taylor a January target and how many new signings are being targeted? I mean, I think we can probably write off one of those questions and say we don't have that much money. And then the other one is, I agree with Gaz actually with what you wrote in his article. He said we'll be in for a centre back, and then if Cadamartri goes back to Sheffield Wednesday, we will potentially be in the market for a striker, and then it's just reactive in terms of replacing people that leave.
Yeah. Just quickly on Cadamartri, in case anyone's not aware, he can't play for another team this season other than us or Sheffield Wednesday because he's already played for Sheffield Wednesday. You can't play for more than 2 teams in a season. The 2 options are we keep him or we plays for Sheffield Wednesday. He can't get recalled and go back out on loan. So
when did he play for Wednesday? Because I thought
not sure. I thought he started. Honest.
Yeah, I thought he got loaned across before the start of the season, but
that has been confirmed by the club as well, directly from the club. Gaz mentioned it at the weekend, so yeah, so that's we'll take that as gospel, and so that depends really on Sheffield Wednesday, to be honest, and whether they see that there's value in keeping Bailey here. Of course, he started again recently, scored again at the weekend, and is really justifying his place in the team now, winning people over that did doubt him, and then proving the people that wanted him in the team all along correct. So I hope he stays. I really do. And if he does, we absolutely do not need a centre forward. And that sounds mad because we've been as a fan base, maybe there's been a bit of criticism of the front line all season, but we've got a front line that between them have scored 20 goals. Yeah. And that's not bad. If you had at this stage of the season 2 centre forwards that played 90 minutes of every game and they've scored 10 goals each, you'd think it's brilliant. We've got 4 centre forwards who have been pretty much rotating on the whole, that have shared 20 goals between them. It's not too bad. We know it can improve, but it's not too bad at all. So I hope he stays. Personally, I do hope he stays. But of course, if he does go back, we might be in the market for a striker. I don't know. We've got Tyler Walker coming back now. We've got Rob Street in the back. So I think it'd be interesting. Definitely can see us signing a centre back, maybe 2, depending on situations. And the rest of it, as you said, will most likely be quite reactive, depending on what happens with outgoings. And that will probably depend on whether anyone else wants to give us quite a bit of money for some of our players that are saleable assets in this window.
Absolutely. I mean, you mentioned Tyler Walker there, so we may as well move into the Reading preview, where in the press conference today, Michael Skubala was talking about Tyler Walker and how, you know, his attitude towards strikers maybe going into January is being formed around that. Obviously, he said that Tyler, and he also said Tom Bayliss is the same, in that they're not quite ready for a full 90 minutes, but they could potentially do, you know, an hour, or Tyler's still getting back up to full match fitness and match sharpness. So he just needs to get that from minutes in games, whether that's coming off the bench or starting. I doubt we'd see Tyler Walker starting anytime soon, if I'm honest with you, but off the bench for, you know, half an hour, 45 minutes seems to make sense for him at the moment. And it is good to see him back in the squad, isn't it?
Oh, it's brilliant to see him back in the squad. And I think I mentioned this before. It almost feels like a bonus because obviously it was really gutting news in the summer. I think all of us probably had our hopes up that, right, Tyler's finally come back from injury. We heard reports that he was looking really sharp in pre-season, and it was gutting news. And I think for them, though, it's almost like, well, we can't rely on Tyler. That's what a lot of people have thought. Myself included, in all honesty. I thought, well, it's a bonus if he's fit. We obviously all want him to be fit and firing in the Tyler Walker that we all remember, but I'm just not expecting it at all. And even though he's back, I think probably still have that mentality, just not expecting it, but really, really want it. There's not a single Lincoln City supporter, I don't think, that doesn't want to see Tyler Walker fully fit and firing and at his best. We know that that's going to be a really valuable asset to the team. So it's just really good to see him back because he's almost been the forgotten man for what feels like a year and a half, really. So the fact that he's visible again and he's not just this name that you see in the back in the pages as of the newspaper saying that he's out injured or someone that you kind of just put on the fringes. He's back in with it now. Question is who does he play instead of? Because we've still got House, we've still got obviously Kadamatri, McCarthy, we've got Draper, and then we've got Walker and Street. Now obviously House played behind the front two, which maybe opens up a squad spot, but certainly not a starting spot. So he's got a lot of competition to fight off. But I think that's the same for all of them up there, isn't it? So I've gone off on a tangent there. Surprise, surprise. But it's obviously a real positive to see him back and to see him visible. And in the little snippet that we saw against Morecambe, he looked pretty sharp actually when coming off the bench, didn't he? So that was good to see.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the overriding feeling again is similar to what we said earlier with Lewis Monsma. Is he going to be the same player that comes back? I think obviously it's a little bit different when you're a striker because you will naturally lose a little bit of pace, a little bit of sharpness as you get a little bit older. And I think it's 4 or 5 years since we saw the Tyler Walker at Lincoln City. So it's one of those where you think, okay, maybe we'll have to see how it goes. But I am excited to have him back because, you know, he's still got the class and we know that he'll still be a decent player for us when he's fully fit. I just really hope that, you know, I want to say he's not rushed his recovery. I don't think he has rushed his recovery. I think it's obviously been quite measured and quite planned out by the club. So, yeah, fingers crossed that Tyler can potentially make an appearance at the weekend. I know Michael was saying in the press conference as well that the big thing is that you've got 7 subs that you can only use 5. coming
I think
on.
I think the point he's making is there's a lot of players that need minutes. And in an ideal world, he could make 7 subs every game so we can get the minutes into their legs. I think that's the point he was making, because I think the not the skeptic, but maybe the traditionalist in me was you've only been able to have 5 in the last few years. It was 3 for a long time. So, it's not too bad to be able to make 5 changes. But I completely get his point. We've got players that are coming back from injury, which is a real positive, but they're not match fit yet. And the only way they get match fit is by playing minutes.
Yes,
but they can't all play. So I get that's certainly a challenge. But ultimately, I have full faith that Michael knows how to navigate that particular situation.
Absolutely. He did have a couple of other things to say, including obviously, how we're going to be reacting to Noel Hunt, who is the new manager at Reading, having taken over from Ruben Sellers, who's disappeared for Hull. I don't know which is the worst option there. Like, do I want to live in Reading or do I want to live in Hull?
I mean, they're both basket case football clubs at the moment as well, aren't they?
Well, there's that as well, yeah.
It's not even like they've got a decent football. Well, they're both decent football clubs, like as a club, but in terms of how they're being ran, obviously not at all at the moment. But yeah, I think that you made a really good point there, moving on to Reading, in that they've obviously lost their, in all honesty, talisman in Ruben Sellers. Sometimes it's a player, often it's a player, but their manager was the glue that held that football club together, to be honest. And yeah, him leaving leaves a huge hole. It leaves a chasm at Reading Football Club. So yeah, we're going to go on I guess next step is to discuss the Reading game. But do we want to do the little preview now or afterwards? Or is there anything else you wanted to say? Because I tried to do a segue and realised there was more on the list.
No, I think that's probably it. We'll probably have a little break here, and then we'll come back and we will look in a bit more depth at. Just my mic stand. We'll have a little bit of another look at Reading. So yeah, feel free to enjoy this advert from whoever we have, and we'll say hello to folks on YouTube. Hello, everybody.
Hello, YouTube.
Gary's being a prick.
On the terraces.
Yeah, nice jumper, Bernard. Don't let my nan know you've got her.
Not only is he signed into the wrong account, he signed into an old wrong account.
Yep. Don't let my nan know you've got her favourite top and best Switch account, so Ben knows who is on his case. My nana actually made this jumper, and she made it for me. Yeah. She gives us.
I'm not just doing this to try and back you. I genuinely like that jumper.
Yeah, she makes me. She does a new jumper every year. She knits one from scratch every year for Christmas. So I have it, and it's really warm, and it's Christmas, and I thought it's quite cold outside, and I just thought I'm going to put that on. Don't really care, so jog on, Gaz. Yeah, right. We'll say hello to some other people. We've got Adam in the chat. He says, "Hi guys, happy nearly Christmas." Andy Brown is in. It says, "Evening, gents." Harry Jackson says, "Could do with a centre back signing for depth." I fully agree. Having Tyler back would be like a new signing, injury permitted. And absolutely. Adam Bull says something to talk about because we were struggling. He said, "Latest Lego news." There is quite a bit. There is a big rumor that there's going to be a massive new Star Wars set next October that's going to cost £1,000.
That's a lot of pennies.
It is, and I'm not going to buy it.
A GoFundMe page.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we're going out at the weekend. I might see if there's. I might see if I sign up to a fundraiser that can raise the money to get me the Lego Death Star that's going to be coming out next year.
Yeah, well, we did. We launched a fundraiser this time last year, didn't we?
We did.
Another one. Not quite as noble a cause, I'll be honest. But hey.
No, I don't think there'd be many people willing to back us for that one.
Right.
So cool. Right, we'll come back in. And there we go. Thank you to our sponsors for the week. And obviously, folks on YouTube have said hello, which is always lovely. If you do miss the pod on YouTube, we do them live, usually on a Thursday. No, usually on a Wednesday, but recording on a Thursday this evening. My weeks have been all messed up. It's a fun time. So, right, let's look ahead to the weekend. Obviously, at 12:30 kickoff, which means that the game will be a boring 0-0. But we're playing Reading at home at the Bank. I believe Charlie's in the process of sorting out a preview, but as of the time of recording, it's not yet been done. So that should be on the YouTube channel as soon as it's ready. So yeah, Reading, Chris, like we say, Ruben Sellers has left. It's been a pretty turbulent time for them in general over the past few years, and it doesn't seem to be easing all that much on the whole. But on the pitch, it's not gone too badly for them so far. They're sixth in the league at the moment. Admittedly, they are on the back of a pretty heavy defeat to Blackpool at the weekend, but it looks like there's some signs of promise there for Reading at the minute, doesn't it?
Yes and no. So yes, obviously they're sixth in the league. They've been doing really well. Definitely not punching above their weight in regards to like stature of the club, and in all honesty, strength of their first 11. But in terms of strength of their squad, age of their squad, and of course with the disruption of what's going on behind the scenes, absolutely punching above their weight in regards to the expectations. I think of almost everyone that follows League One, particularly Reading supporters. It's brilliant for them. Like from the outside looking in, you want the football club to be successful because those supporters have had a flipping hard time over the last few years. That 90 minutes on the pitch, they can at least enjoy that now. And you often see when there's disruption off the pitch, that often manifests itself on the pitch for most football clubs, doesn't it? We've seen it at Swindon at the moment, of course, that are having a terrible time. We've seen it at Hull. We've seen it time and time again. I think Reading has been different in that they've been able to separate the football from everything else. And a key component of that was Ruben Sellers. I was singing his praises on the not the Real EFL show, the EFL Hub podcast that Charlie and I do a week or two ago, and we were discussing the situation. And I'm just going to repeat what I said there, really, in that this is huge for Reading that they've lost him. It's really strange that he's gone from one basket case to another, seemingly. But he was absolutely primed to move on because he's shown not just really good footballing knowledge and coaching ability, but all of those soft skills that you can't measure. They're not tangible, but they're clearly on show. The togetherness that Reading squad has shown this season, and obviously last season as well, is incredible considering what's going on behind the scenes. So I think there's two Readings that we're going to be analysing here. There's Reading overall this season, which is with all the information that we've got, but there's that massive caveat that they're missing Ruben Sellers. And we've mentioned before when we've been discussing the difference between maybe Mark Kennedy leaving the football club to when Danny Cowley left the football club. The hole that was bigger was Cowley because him and Nicky had basically ran pretty almost everything that's related to the football department. And I think as well, a huge hole, didn't it?
Yeah. So just to jump in on that, I think a lot of it is when somebody leaves on their own terms. If you get a manager that leaves on their terms because they've been offered another job, then that always feels like it's going to leave a bigger hole than if a manager gets fired. Because if a manager gets the sack, then the chances are that things haven't necessarily been going all that well. It's very rare that you see a chairman sack a manager that's top of the league.
Oh yeah, it never happens, does it? Yeah, that's a really good point.
And I just think that's probably it's more disruptive when a manager gets pinched rather than a manager gets sacked.
Yeah, a great point. But I think this is even more than that happening at another club. Yeah. So let's use the Cowley example. Like it felt, it broke my heart when we lost Danny and Nicky Cowley to Huddersfield. It feels like such a long time ago now, that doesn't it? But I think it felt like an end of an era, and we were okay. It took us a little while to kind of establish ourselves, but we were all right. We moved on since then. But this is an even bigger hole, I think, because Ruben Sellers was not just running the majority of the football department. He was that glue and that barrier, I suppose, that protected the players from the off the field issues. He was that galvanizing force that connected the players and the fans to kind of be united against the owner, and I just think that role he played and that just the figure that he was at that club off the pitch, let alone what's happening on it, is enormous. I feel terribly sorry for Reading fans that they've had to go through this, of course, but we're Lincoln City supporters. We're going to talk about it from a Lincoln City perspective now. But I think how we analyse Reading, we have to bear in mind that that's going to be a massive upheaval for a lot of people not just in terms of coaching, but like from just a human point of view and a personal perspective. I think those interpersonal relationships that he must have between the players, that's going to be really difficult to replace. Now, Noel Hunt's obviously coming; he's a Reading legend in his own right, so another galvanising figure. You hope, but he's got a tough job to kind of carry on what Ruben Sellers was doing. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think we're going to touch on the other stuff now. But in terms of that situation, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I'm in agreement. I think, like I say, when you have a manager that leaves of his own accord to go up onto better things, it's always more of a wrench than everything's going tits up. What do we do? Oh, we'll get rid of the manager and we'll bring someone in that can turn the ship around. I think it's really, really difficult to replace someone, like you say, that is that figurehead of a man at the club. And I think every Reading fan that I think we've spoken to, several on the podcast before, and I know I've spoken to a couple on the previews, where it's been, Sellers is the shining light at the club at the moment. And as you rightly pointed out, there is that barrier, which, I'd never really thought about it like that, but now you've said that, it makes perfect sense. You've got, when I spoke to some Wrexham fans the other day, I said, you've got Wrexham, the football team, and then you have Wrexham, the entity, and the entity is much bigger than everything else. And I think with Reading, the football side of it has been fine, but the entity of Reading has just been an absolute cluster for so long, and it doesn't really show any signs of slowing down on that side of it, and it really irritates me because it always goes back to the fit and proper persons test. And I know that this could lead to another discussion that could last for hours on, managers and owners and chairmen and, rogue owners, all the rest of it. But yeah, I absolutely feel sorry for Reading fans. But in terms of on the pitch, what are we thinking will be taken on Saturday? Because it obviously they've had a 1-1 draw with Wycombe, who top of the table, and they are absolutely flying at the moment. So that's a decent result for them, in all honesty. And then a bit of a battering at home to Blackpool on Saturday. So, I mean, the obvious answer is, Ruben Sellers has left. But other than that, what else has changed? It's not like the players have just been told, "Oh, carry on as normal." But
yeah. To be honest, there's a lot of intangibles that you can't measure, and it's only 2 games. Mm-hmm. And the first game since Sellers left, of course, was a really, really credible draw against Wycombe away. Then, as you mentioned, a home defeat, and it's a deserved home defeat in terms of the underlying numbers. Like Blackpool deserved a 3-0 win. So that's probably a bit of a worry for Reading fans. But in all honesty, I'm really happy to credit them. I think I've credited and praised Reading a lot this season, but they were overperforming their underlying numbers. And I'm not going to kind of say that football isn't only played in a spreadsheet, but when all of the numbers are pointing in a particular direction that is slightly away from the league table, you kind of think, okay, then there's a lot of games to go yet. It's probably going to even out a little bit, especially when you remove that galvanizing figure that maybe is the figurehead that just gets that extra 1% out of players now and then. So yeah, 6th in the league, of course. Played 19, won 9, drawn 4, lost 6, plus 2 goal difference. Conceded 28 goals, though, which is actually quite a few compared to a lot of other teams in the league around there. And scored 30, which is decent numbers. In terms of their away record, though, have only got the 15th best away record. They only won 2 of their 10 away matches, which is obviously promising for us. In terms of their underlying numbers, again, scored 30, conceded 28. But according to their expected goals, they've actually scored 6 to 7 goals more than the quality of the chances that they've created would suggest that they should do. So that's a massive overperformance. That's definitely going to get you points. And they've actually conceded between 1 and 2 goals fewer than they should do, according to that. So they're about 8 goals difference in regards to, or better off one way or another than where they should be. So I think, that's a big enough difference to read a little bit into. And then that's kind of backed up by the fact that they've had only the 20th most big chances in the league. They've 24th, so lowest, so fewest number of accurate crosses in the league. And also they I've got something else written down here. Where is it? Really interesting one. Oh, I'll get to it in a minute. It's written in 2 lines. So in terms of that's it. Here we go. Yeah, in terms of shots outside the box, they're almost highest in the league for shots outside the box. So I think they're 3rd in the league for shots outside the box, but only 20th for shots inside the box. A bit of a caveat to that is that they've got Lewis Wing, who is absolutely fantastic from shooting from range. So they're going to have higher numbers of shots from outside the box. Only 5 teams have conceded more from set pieces. So that's a good sign for us because we've scored the most in the league from set pieces. And in terms of how that all compares to us, well, we're 3rd in the league for action zones in our own third. So that means that we have got the 3rd least amount of the game going on in our third. So most of the action is in the middle third and the opposition third. Reading have the highest percentage of action zones in their own third. So a lot of the game in their game is played in their third.
So we're expecting it to be kind of falling into our hands a little bit in how we like to play.
Hopefully. So that means that they like to build a little bit, but that also means that they have a lot of pressure in their area as well. It works both ways. And the fact that we tend not to play too much in our own third and we try and get the ball forward quickly and then play, I think we can expect to see, quite a lot of the ball at the part of the pitch that we would feel much more comfortable at being in. So that's a good sign. So what does this really mean? In terms of just the underlying data shows that there are some weaknesses and they're probably overperforming at the moment. Their league position probably is a little bit higher than their overall performances would suggest that they should be. There's always individuals at play here which maybe count towards that and that allow you to punch above your weight. But over a season, you'd expect them to maybe drop down to a mid-table position if things carry on as they are. In terms of the actual game, they're not very crossy. They put the fewest amount of crosses in, but they concede the highest number of crosses. So I can expect us trying to exploit the flanks quite a bit and for us to flood midfield. We tend to flood midfield anyway, out of possession. So kind of stylistically it adds up. We're good at scoring set pieces. They're not too good at defending them. So there might be a set piece chance or 2 for us here. And they tend to be a little bit susceptible when playing out deep. They haven't conceded a huge amount of goals from it, but they've conceded quite a few chances from it, mainly because of just their risky setup in that when they're playing out, they have a lot of players ahead of the ball. So their rest defense is quite open. And that kind of plays into our hands. So I'm going to stick my neck out here and say that all the signs here on the pitch, plus the fact that they've not got Ruben Sellers anymore, and also the fact that we're playing as well. It's not just Reading that are playing. There's us at play here as well. And we were brilliant against Huddersfield away in that first half. Utterly outstanding. That shows that we've got that in the locker. Of course, it was more difficult in the second half, but I'm taking the positives out of that game. We were unplayable in that first half. Like, I'm going to stick my neck out and say I fancy us to win here. Or certainly I would do if it was a 3:00 kickoff. It's probably.
I was going to say, you're forgetting the key thing of it's 12:30 and it's going to be on Sky.
But in terms of like how do you expect them to play? They're going to play 4-3-3. They've got both their wing backs tend to push on. The wide forwards tend to play quite narrow. They're very threatening players. Lewis Wing is outstanding from range, creates a lot of chances as well. They've got Sam Smith up top, who scored 7 goals. Good kind of focal point. They've got the 3rd best goalkeeper statistically in the league in Joel Pereira. One of the biggest reasons why they've been able to overperform their league position and their expected goals is because they've kept more out than they should have done. And that's mainly down to him. So they've got though they've got a limited squad and maybe a young squad, they've got quite an experienced and high quality spine. They've got some really good individual players. So they're not to be taken lightly. But I fancy us in this one. I do.
Okay. Yeah. The thing is, I didn't really know what to expect from Reading, sort of coming into, obviously going into the game. I'm still not overly sure. From what you've said, it does sound like it's going to, hopefully, if the numbers don't lie, play into our hands with how they like to play and how we like to play. Obviously, another player that you didn't mention there that stands out to me is Harvey Nibbs. I think he's been superb whenever we've seen him, and it's just when you hear names that when you prick your ears up a little bit, you go, oh yeah, they're quite good, aren't they? And it's always a bit of a worry. But no, I'm looking forward to the game. I would like to think that we can build on that first half from Huddersfield. because, as you say, we were absolutely outstanding, and I think I did see most of the pod on Sunday, and I just thought from what you guys said, it wasn't 2 points dropped, which is what I think a lot of people are saying. I think it was just a very good game of football, and I was knackered by the end of it, and I was just watching it.
I was shattered, absolutely shattered after watching that. Yeah, you know what? Like, it was 2 points dropped because we had a 3 in terms of scoreline, and then it fell back. But in terms of what did we all expect prior to the game kicking off, it wasn't 2 points dropped at all. But yeah, like, I get what Michael said in his press conference on Saturday, in that we woke up tomorrow morning and realised it's a good point, but it hurts right now. And the further away we are from that game, the more you just focus on how good we were in the first half, because we were really, really good. And what pleased me the most is because we've played well in other games, maybe not quite to that level, but we've played well in other games, but we haven't scored when we were on top. We haven't made that domination count. And we did it. We did it in that first half, and I just hope we can bring that onto Saturday. And if we do, then that could be a catalyst for a relatively successful few games, and get back and get picking up some points again.
Absolutely. I'm just trying to think. Was it the Stockport game when it was similar, where we had a really, really solid first half? I think we scored just before half time.
I know we won that game, but I've forgotten the individual kind of incidents in it, to be honest.
I think you kind of just proved the point you were saying there, haven't you? If you look at it, ultimately, as time goes away or as time goes on, it doesn't really matter too much about the performances. It's the number on the score sheet at the end of it. So
so all this analysis, who cares? It's pointless.
Oh dear. Well, look, that's Reading. As much as we can analyse what we think may happen. You're hopeful of a win. I'm hopeful of a win as well. However, as we say, it's on Sky. It's 12:30 kickoff. It's going to be 0-0. We know it's going to be 0-0.
I mean, like, probability-wise, it can't be, can it? It can't be 0-0 again.
Well, the last 2 times we've played Reading, we've drawn 1-1.
True.
So, I don't know. I would like to think it won't be, but I wouldn't be surprised if it is. But look, I mean, we're 46 minutes in now, and I think we're getting to the point where we don't really have much in terms of Lincoln City news to talk about now. There's one thing that is slightly tangential that I did want to get in because it's just nice to see. And the City of Lincoln Council yesterday posted that at the Guildhall yesterday, Rob Bradley was made a Freeman of the City of Lincoln in recognition of his dedicated services to sport, which include obviously football and cricket. Being our chairman for a period back in the 2000s, and he's obviously done a hell of a lot for the city. If I remember correctly, he remortgaged his house to kind of help finance the club from stopping it going under, basically, at one point. And I believe Bob did the same thing. So there's been 2 mortgages set up or taken out to kind of help fund the club in the past, but we're well past that now. And I don't think it can be overstated that if it weren't for those efforts, we probably wouldn't be sitting here right now looking at the club that we have today. So yeah, fully deserved for Rob, and just delighted for him, to be fair.
Yeah, it's a lovely touch, isn't it? And you're absolutely right in that it's very unlikely that we would have a football club right now if it wasn't for what Rob did in the early noughties. So, he's done a lot since as well. But that's I think the defining moment. But it's clear that not just in football, in cricket as well, as you mentioned earlier, he's done a lot for the city. So it's just nice to see good people being recognised, isn't it? And Rob obviously is one of the very best. So top news. It's nice.
Absolutely. Well, look, I don't think we have anything else Imps related. Oh, you're wagging your finger at me.
Got one thing to mention. Well, we're going out for a drinky and some food after the game, aren't we? It's our Stacey West Christmas do. We're going for some food afterwards, and then we're going to go for a drink. So we're going to mention that if anyone fancied a beer and meeting us up, we're going to be probably, unless it's too busy, in the Cardinals hat about 6:30, did we say?
I think that was the time. I don't know.
Something like that.
I'm not going to be drinking for 2 reasons. The first one is that I have to drive to Chippenham to pick up my nana on Sunday, And the second one is I don't want to sign up to anything that I'm never going to be finding incredibly difficult anymore.
Yeah, I'm probably going to be going steady because I'm out the night before, as in Friday night, with a few friends as our kind of Christmas get together. Hopefully that won't be too messy, but I will have a few drinks, and I'm not sure Gary will be going too heavy after his last experience of alcohol. So that'll be quite interesting. But we'll be social nonetheless.
Do they do tequila rosé in the Cardinals hat?
One way to find out.
But look, no, that's going to do it for episode 342 of the Stacey West podcast. It has been a pleasure as always, Chris.
Oh, pleasure as always, mate. Yep,
absolutely. And there are two more things to say. One, first off, from David Ward, goes out to everybody. Happy Christmas to you all. I'm not going to be on the pod on Sunday, so this is my Christmas blessing, as it were, to everybody. But of course, other than that, the other thing to say is up the imps.
Up the imps.